call the Ways and Means Committee for May the 13th to order. We will have a short prayer, and then the pledge of the flag, and then we'll open up.
We can open up a moment of silence.
I forgot to mention that we just, Commissioner Ramcroft just got word about death in the PSD family, so we'll have a little bit of an announcement about that and then a moment of silence on that. Well, here we are again to do the business for the PSD and the island residents. And we ask you to guide us so that we'll have a nice meeting tonight and help us out in your son's name. Amen. Commissioner Ramcroft, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, we want to acknowledge the silence for Danny. I don't know her last name, but Danny and her husband was killed in a car accident yesterday. Robert, do you know anything about that?
Yes, Danielle and Marshall Altman. And their three children in the car. One is seriously injured, the other, or is listening to the other two heaven knows.
So we'll have a moment of silence, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dwight, would you give the Freedom of Information the roll call, please?
Freedom of Information Act. In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of this meeting and its agenda were provided to all news media and persons requesting notification. Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford. Here. Commissioner Engelmann,
Here.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Platt, Commissioner Poston,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson. Here.
Mr. Chair, can I make a quick request? This rug is like this way, can we turn it around and go that way? Because I had the worst time getting my chair forward and back.
Could we get somebody to help her out with that?
Well, we don't have to do it today, we can do it later.
I guess that means you stay in your seat.
Not put it.
Yourself,
But you can bring it closer over here so there's stuff on it. Thank you.
Tonight is going to be the budget workshop where we will receive the introduction for the budget from the, I hate to say it like, from the worker bees to let us know where everything stands. I will say that I have had a chance to review just real quick, like, and this passing out is not, repeat, not the full budget. I just did a pick and choose to make sure that there were some issues that I had. Did I give you one extra? Pencils. I thought I would do one for everybody.
Did you have to type in this spreadsheet or did they give you a spreadsheet?
I did.
I would like for somebody to send you a spreadsheet because I can't do anything with the PDF, you know?
I'll share with you on the process. But if you look at it real quick, like, and this is from what we were given on our mail. All I'm doing is picking up the changes, positive and negative, and then the percent on it. And it's the ones that really leaped out at me. It is not, in any sense of the word, the entire budget that was presented to us. These are just things that I hope we will hear something about tonight, and if nothing else, it'll be passed along to us in the process of the budget process. So, Ms. Wise, if you would do your thing with the budget.
Great question. You all, Dave has been working very, very hard on this budget. He's had great assistance from all the department heads. It's been starting as far back as December 2008. There's been a lot of analysis and review and resource gathering, utilizing a lot of external folks to provide the best budget we can, and I think he's done that. So, Mr. Game, if you'd like to go on and start with your presentation,
All right,
I appreciate it.
thank you all, good evening. Ways and Means Committee, proposed budget. We'll start with just a general discussion. I'd like to at least give out the basics so for the new commissioners as well as our staff here, and maybe a different perspective than we've done in the past. The budgets, and I think you got it in front of you, it should go page by page. I'm on page 3. The budget is the district's annual financial plan, and it's the opportunity to blend strategic planning, which we do in the fall, management team, with what the residents of the James Allen PSD expect in services, and ultimately with the allocation of resources to turn that plan into reality. We start the budget process. Input is essential as efforts are made to create the best financial plan possible to create financial stability and continue moving the PSD forward into 2020 and beyond. So that's why we do our projections 5 years out. The proposed fiscal year 20 budget is a culmination of processes that began in late December of 2018. After the start of the fiscal year July 18 budget. So we get out of budget, we go right into audit. August, September, October, November, and then we roll right back into the budget. So it's an ongoing process. And so projecting revenue expenditures almost 18 months from the beginning of that process is challenging, and I've seen in the development of prior budgets, many of the same issues occur over and over again. Typically, expenses and requests exceed revenue at the beginning, and reductions are required. Use of fund balance and reserve balances come into play. What can we use set by the policy set by you guys, and what can't we use? How to best allocate limited resources to cover a wide array of needs, and balancing adjustment to the taxes, rates, and fees with the needs of what we can afford. At the end of the day, James Allen PSD is about first our residents, maintaining the excellent services the district provides, ability to spread resources fairly and adequately to do the most good, and to keep the district fiscally sound and strong. I just put this, and I'm not going to read each one, but that's just for your information. What we do to start January, February, all the way through, and what's going on during those times, just like a little flow chart. And so it is a detailed process, and it takes 6 to 7 months to put the budget together. And so we are diligently working on it from December forward. Some objectives. We were told the objective number 1 is no millage increase. So that's where we began, no millage increase. Maintain or improve our core services, which is our service excellence. Address the capital needs of the district as a whole. Is there any tax-based growth, commercial or residential, out there? Explore opportunities to consolidate, improve efficiencies, generate new revenue or reduce expenses, and protect existing assets, maintain or improve them. And that's both the general fund and the wastewater fund. Some of the challenges we face quickly is increased costs due to inflation, insurance, personnel costs, mandates, regulatory issues. Yes.
These objectives.
Yes, ma'am.
So, these were what you have been working on. So have you been able to, what you have projected, have you been able to meet these?
We did use all those as we went through that process on the page before. We did use and meet all those. What's the best with it? Is there any growth? And you'll see that coming up here in a minute. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Inflation, insurance, obviously personnel costs, mandates and regulatory issues, mainly with wastewater, and cost of doing business. I mean, it obviously increases, everybody knows that. And I like Mr. Brown Krause's, where the cost of a loaf of bread goes up every year. What are our taxpayers' expectations, and can we meet those? Capital needs to continue to exceed available funding. So everybody's capital request or needs always exceeds the funding that's available. So some needs cannot be delayed and some must be delayed. And so that's what we work with as a challenge. Aging infrastructure and long-range capital needs. And then we have to maintain adequate fund balances for the reserve, and those are set policies by you guys, and we asked about that last week, and I've got detail on that this week.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I've heard this so many times, and they may know that I don't know, that the capital needs continue to exceed. But I've been told many times that we've already got money for the new fire station. Is that true?
We are gonna go out for a GO bond to pay for that fire station. So we don't have the money, we budgeted money, but we don't have the money, no, for the 8.1, including the land. We'll go out and get a loan to pay for that over time, whatever is determined by the commission.
Have they seen any unforeseen things in dealing with this asbestos?
Not that I've heard, David may know more, he may have heard more,
Nothing.
nothing yet.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, following those cash reserve and balance policies set by the commission to keep us fiscally sound. Capital requests by departments for fiscal year 20, budget consideration totaled $923,000, which fits in our debt structure and projections over the next 5 years, and you'll see that coming up in a minute. There's limited debt availability for the debt service funds, and I'll show you that once we get to that screen. And debt service is what pays our capital lease, principal and interest. And which again, once again, tax dollars. And so this is kind of small, but hopefully you can read it. Despite these challenges, many positive developments continue to occur within the James Island Public Service District, which are highlighted in this presentation. I took a little different approach, just based on my knowledge and where I come from. The purpose is the creation of a balanced budget in the end game. It's ultimately the same. This year the budget is developed with emphasis on the end in sight. How much revenue is available and useful? That's a new approach. That was never the approach before. How much revenue we got, then what can we expend? How can revenues be allocated to cover as many needs as possible? What are the priorities? Financing obligations current and projected 5 years out. How to allocate available resources efficiently, fairly, and adequately. And then consideration of commissioners' input from prior workshops and the ones moving forward. And then I did put in there, funding isn't unlimited. The district has finite resources and simply aren't enough funds available to give everyone everything they want. But there is adequate funding to cover most of what everyone needs and meet the needs of the residents with continuance of excellent service. Striking that balance year after year is what budgeting is all about, to create a budget that's balanced and fiscally responsible. So back to the end in mind on revenue. What are our resources? And we talked about those last Monday night. Taxes, fees, and other funding. Cash reserve balances, do we want to use any of that? And we have in the past. Same with fund balance. Fiscal year 20 projections, any new source of revenue, so we looked at that. Utility budget typically balances internally through ability to adjust rates, and that was a rate study we did. So typically that'll balance itself. So the focus shifts to the general fund where shortfalls typically occur based on what the collection rate with the county is. So what's the revenue projection for fiscal year 20? And so what the management team did getting together, we had several budget work sessions. Staff indicated, once we got to the point where everything was put in, an estimated fiscal year budget reduction of $250,000 in the general fund to make the figures meet revenue demands. So once they submitted everything and we put, here's the revenue we're gonna get from the county off their projections, we took and said, okay, we need to cut $250,000 out of the general fund budget, so how do we do that? And after discussions, came up with the idea that we'll do reductions across the board, but they were done by a percentage based on department in comparison to the general fund budget, the entire budget. So fire had a larger portion because there's 64% of the budget than some of the other departments, but it was based on percentage of the budget that they manage. There's no general pay increases for district personnel proposed. We'll continue with the approved merit program, 0 to 4% on the annual evaluation. We did an analysis, the annual merit for calendar year, 2018, that was the best way to get that information, was 3.2%. So that's what we used in our projections, 3.2%. We've got a suggestion by the fire chief that we freeze 3 full-time firefighter FTEs. And by not filling these, instead of 9 current vacancies, that would leave them with 6. There's no new full-time equivalent included in the proposed budget. We had 13 frozen for several years. This brings a total of 16 frozen. Health insurance costs, as you all know in your own lives, continue to increase. They're going to increase 1% this year, and they continue to increase 1% on retirement through 2023. So we know those increases are there, and those are built into the proposed budget. So on revenue for the general fund, when I had one too many, is projected to be $7.7 million from taxes and fees and other recovered costs. Total expenses are projected to be $7.724, so you see a small difference there. And the general fund has an excess of expenditures of $3,905, which is very prudent. It's very tight. I mean, they've cut everything they can cut. The department heads did a fine job doing that.
What is the value of the mill for the PSD?
The value of mill, I talked to Matt Gile down at the county, I also talked to some other people. The value of our current mill, if you do the math, is about, average about $106,000. And that begins on a collection rate. I mean, if your collection rate is 100%, their collection rate is sitting at about 89% on taxes for what we look at.
So it's around 100,000.
Right. And that changes every year, obviously, too, based on the millage. I put up the millage rates for the last, from 2011 forward. And you can see the increases we had and where we were. One of those years, I think 2016 was a reassessment year, yes. 2021, the reassessment will impact us. And that could work in our favor, if it does, but it also could go the other way. So that'll be something the county does in reassessment in 2021. But you can see there's no millage increase for this year. I brought up last year's slide from the proposed prior year millage increase, where they had projected revenues of 4%. We didn't meet that. We got maybe 3.4%. There was minimal growth noted. We showed y'all that for the new people, the impact on $350,000 home, the general fund 2 mil increase, and the 5.5 on the debt service. It came to 105 on an annual property, or $875 a month on a $350,000 home. Last year, that was to cover several things. One was the comp study adjustment, which was done by David McNair, or finished or wrapped up by, and Lisa did a lot of hard work on that. And those figures you see there, general fund, wastewater, and the total, is what came with that without the benefits. That was just the flat up and increase in the salaries, $225,000. It also was, like I said, anticipated to pay the note, not pay for the fire station, but pay the note that's going to be due on Fire Station 1, 6.7, on the land, 1.42, on the purchase of 2 fire trucks. So those are the principal and interest due on those, is why we raised those mills. And 13% that was out there was based on the millage increase. The 56.9 divided by 64 is 13% millage increase. Again, that wasn't necessarily the revenue increase.
Those 2 fire trucks, did we purchase those or are we going to purchase?
We did purchase those,
Okay.
and I think Chief had them here at one of the meetings, yes. But I
When
was
do
just,
they plan on starting the fire station?
Summer,
Don't know.
summer,
Somewhere. Oh.
hoping to break ground in the summer.
the bids are going to be open,
Right here it's
When is the bid?
the bids will be open May 23rd here. And I think, is that what the last was they were due here? Yep. And then they can determine from there how those come in. And
the house that has been burned out, okay, you know there's got to be asbestos in that.
they're doing that one as well.
But somebody told me that they could just wet it down, is that true?
Oh, that to refer to David or,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, what?
They can wet it down and have to retain it. They can't just let it go out, they have to make sure it's encapsulated in some way. but we hired a professional company to come in and do that.
I'm
All the buildings,
impressed with what they've
all the
done.
buildings should be torn down by the end of the month.
I think their setup for the one they're taking the asbestos out now is really good. Thank you.
I did note on my notes, I didn't put it up there, but Robert and I worked with the architect, and we got a request to put Fire Station 2 on the board, and you'll see that coming up in a minute for 2023. And so those dollars are considered with the payment, and that's gonna be, first estimate for a 2-bay, 2-story, I believe, is $4.9 million. I mean, there's things to consider with this tax increase that this is why we needed it. It's not just this year or last year's future. You got another fire station that's due for replacement. And you'll see that coming up here in a minute. The highlights of the budget on page 16, that merit increase, the average, I tried to break it down by funds, the general fund and the wastewater fund. And so based on the average, it's about $114,000 for the budget. The retirement contribution is going up about $121,000. So you see those totals at the bottom, $235,000 total for general fund and wastewater. Our costs that are perpetual, they're gonna increase.
Say it again.
If you look at the merit, I got general fund, wastewater, the total, and then I got the retirement contributions that are going up 1%. And the total there, 172,000 to 63,000 equal 235,000. Those are in salaries and benefits. And there's nothing we can do with those. Those are what are set by based our policy on the merit program and then the retirement contributions.
But we can change that.
This is salaries.
They have a set fee, the 1% increase, we cannot change that. I mean, that's what we do. We can certainly change policy, I would assume, through the commission, based on what your retirement contributions are. Retiree health insurance, that's something that deals back with what the auditor was talking about in the OPEB. There's your cost for that, $170,000 is in the budget. The frozen positions, I did include those 3 frozen firefighters. It takes it to 16, and you can see the annual savings from those, a total of $733,000. And then overall, the general fund operating and maintenance portion, not salaries and benefits, decreased by 1.2% or $14,500 compared to fiscal year 19. So the guys did an incredible job cutting, and we do show a decrease. Any questions there before we move on?
Can you go back,
Sure.
one thing, go back to page 15 and, explain to me the, fire station and the purchase. I don't quite understand. that.
So when we built in that millage increase on the debt service of 5.5 last year, it was to pay those loans in capital and principal, that are gonna come due when we take out the GO bond. We've already purchased the land, I'm gonna recoup for that, and we've purchased the 2 fire trucks. So the principal and interest due, so we increased the debt service to pay for that outlooking 5 years last year. And now we've added a fire station on top of that. So to recoup, and you'll see in a minute, to recoup those costs, we have to maintain where we're at. And you'll see that coming up, how the fund balance must pay those next year's balances due. And I'll show you that on another screen, so it'll make a little more sense.
Okay.
So we'll go on to slide 17.
Okay, thank
This is the general fund revenue and expense summary. And you'll see the revenues proposed. Budget is what we're currently 18-19, and that matches last year. The actual 17-18 matches the audit numbers. And so your proposal for 19-20, you see that the increase in our governmental revenues, other income. You see the expenditures there below it, 1 million, 4 million, 2 million for each department. We don't have any capital expenses there. I don't know if you can see my mouse on the screen.
you. No.
No. And total expenditures, so that's the number I gave you, our $7,728,000 on the revenues is $7,724,000 on the expenditures. And there's your excess of revenues, $3,905. That's a budget that's very tight, very balanced. There's not much room for error there. And if you look at that fund balance, it says June 30th, $3,614,000. That's gonna show in a minute on the next slide how those funds are held based on the policies you guys set a couple years ago. We show no tax increase, millage increase, but you can see projected out, we've had to have some to have any excess. If we take any of those numbers any lower, these excesses drop on deficit or excess line, 87 million, 55,000, 68, 79. And again, the revenues come directly from the county. They send us their, like I told you last week, they send us their collection rates and their collection numbers, and those come directly from the county. And again, 20, 21, 22, and 23 are simple projections. I think somebody mentioned last week that there was 3.5 projected for next year, this current year, 2020. And you can see that didn't come to fruition, that we made it work, whether it was department heads cutting theirs or whether other things fell out and fell into place, our collection rates went up. Those are just simple projections to make the figures work and to have a balanced budget. You're not voting on those, you're voting on the current proposed budget here in the blue. Slide 18 is how our funds are held. And those numbers it'll be the third column over, budget fiscal year 1920. You add the revenues less the disbursements, and you get total available. And then below that, you'll see how their fund balance components that I mentioned last week. We got a rainy day fund of 3% that the commission set up. We got non-spendable, first line was non-spendable, which is inventory and prepaid.
Excuse me.
Yes.
With that rainy day fund, we're gonna wait till it rains to use it. Rainy day fund.
Rainy day fund is what I guess you guys titled it, or it's commonly titled, is some unexpected expense that we didn't know about, and it sits at 231,000. Let's say a truck goes down or a tractor goes down or something. But
Right.
no, we haven't used that. We commit 3% being there.
I thought a couple of years ago, Mr. Platt requested us to increase our rainy day fund. Hasn't it been that rate for a couple of years?
And you can speak, he probably did, but go ahead.
I think he was thinking more of the 3 months of the year operating expenses.
Right, and I think he wanted
That
to work.
was the fund balance, he wanted 6.
So if you look at the bottom line, what he's talking about is unassigned, 3 months next year's operating expense. I think Mr. Platt asked to increase that to 6 months, I believe, if that was
Yeah,
correct.
but,
And I don't think y'all voted for that.
no, we
Right.
didn't, because when we went to the, conference,
Right.
most PSB, don't keep that kind of money in. And that rainy day fund, I know it's for extra, but, if we have to use it, we can use that money. If an emergency come up or something, we can,
And sometimes that money is used while we're waiting on FEMA. FEMA from Irma in October of 17 is just now getting back to finalizing our numbers and getting us a check. So you're talking about a year and a half to get our money back. So we had to expend that money, and that's similar. Money on paper, but we're expending that money for Walter and them to go out and pick up the debris and waiting on reimbursement.
In the
Now-
money, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The money you were waiting on from the county, did you get that money?
City, it was City of
Was it
Charleston.
the
I did,
city?
yes. Yep, and I think that was in a report that Mr. White provided.
Along with following.
Right, along with following.
And then since then, every month,
Right.
you've gotten it
Yeah,
right
from
after
Amy
the
and City.
where we were getting 3-4 months delays.
She's been very accurate, very current.
Yeah, you've established a good relationship with Amy and working their CFO.
Thank you.
The money you're getting back from FEMA and all, is there any kind of discount off of it, or is it dollar for dollar that you didn't get?
It's dollar for dollar that we spent. And what we're waiting on now is the portion that Walter and his crew expended. Their salaries is dollar for dollar, and they keep a very detailed worksheet. The state's in their portion several months back, but the federal government has not. So The rainy day fund's there, you see other post-employment benefits, that's the program that Mr. Hancock talked about. We put $100,000 of it last year, or this current year, but the program's costing us increasing, let's not say it costing, increasing by $750,000 a year. So throwing $100,000 at it really isn't doing it much justice. So talking with other entities around, and also our financial advisor and our auditor and my input, we came up with doing 7% of our salaries, of salaries, and so that's where we come up with $368,000. That's not as similar, but we've got to make some headway on it, or we change policies you mentioned, or y'all change policies you mentioned on the retirees, and get that number lower.
7% doesn't include benefits.
Right,
Straight salary.
It's straight salary, yes, sir. And so that's what we proposed for this year, $368,000 to pay towards that, and that will change our number a little bit, but it's, again, it's not a big effect. We don't have any, go ahead.
We're
Sorry.
funding, but we're underfunding.
Right.
From what the program
Right.
mandates.
And Mr. Hancock's more than willing to come back, and we've actually budgeted for that quarterly. I think somebody asked, he says, to do some training on what potentially you guys could do to change that, if that's what y'all decide.
We got time to work through the process, or are we on some kind of deadline here?
I would, my guess would be, next year, I would guess.
And I believe we've already started on it, they charge them doing some
Right.
actuary compounds and together some stuff for that and recommendations. But at least we're doing what we need to do by law, so to at least some portion of this, that's the number we started.
So we're covered
Yes.
just barely.
But the retiree health insurance, we're not required by law to pay that, right?
You want to answer that question?
Local subdivisions are,
Say again?
You might have to stand up, so you
He's
can.
thinking.
local subdivisions are not required to pay as much as the state does, but we are required to follow the state policy.
On retiree health insurance?
We have to offer it. It's a benefit that we offer through the state plan, which we participate in. So we have to offer it, but we don't have to fund it the way the state does. Our current policy funds it the same way the state does.
I don't think that's right.
The current policy funds the retiree health the same way that the
So
state
we're
does.
paying, what, 100%?
Mhm.
How much are we paying?
We pay the employer portion of the
When they
health
retire?
insurance.
Um,
And the employee pays the employee portion.
But the spouse, and like Mr. Hancock said, the spouse is covered if the former employee passes away. So there's
So
an
we don't
implied
have to offer
benefit.
that, do we?
No, we do not, but there's an implied benefit being in a group program. They get a benefit. There is a benefit there.
but
No, we don't have to,
follow-
and that's some of the
Yeah.
stuff that he was saying, that you guys could change the policy if you needed to.
Yeah.
We have to further investigate that with PIVA because we
Right.
can't offer any less than what PIVA offers
Well, we
on the
shouldn't
plan.
offer, I don't think we should offer any more than what the state does.
Well, what are the respective percentages? Are they equal, like 50/50 or 40?
No, the employer, the employee portion is $97 for single coverage for the employee. And then the employer pays the remainder of that. And so it's
You're
more
saying
like,
it's capped at a dollar amount.
it's more like 80% is what the state's employer portion pays of the whole premium. And the employee pays the other 20%.
It's not capped on any dollar amount.
That's for the employee only. There's no there's only 50% coverage for, the dependent, but that's for people that were hired prior to 2008 and retired with more than 15 years of service.
Didn't you mention a number like there was like 27 people on there?
There's 25 people currently on the retiree plan.
So there's an assigned value too on line 4 under unrestricted, if there is any deficit, we were gonna dip into those funds, and obviously we're not, so there's nothing there. And then there's the unassigned at 3 months next year's operating expense, which tallies back to that total. You take the beginning less that restricted, unrestricted, you see the total at the very bottom, is what's available. Again, for an organization our size with $15 to $16 million in revenue, I mean, $1 million available is pretty fiscally prudent there. And you see that projected out the same way. And this is the debt service fund. Again, this is what pays the principal and interest. Yes, ma'am. And so you see the blue column there, and again, the actual column is based on the financial statements. The budget is what we're currently operating in with that millage increase. And the proposed budget, that millage increase, I see a typo right there, should have been in budget fiscal year 19 at 5.5, that was in actual, so it should be in the budget column. That doesn't change anything, it's just the wrong column. You got your proposed property tax revenues. You see fire station 3 and 4, that's the old RD loans that we have, and their payments, principal and interest. The capital leases that we currently have, $519,000. The fire station 1 replacement with the GO bond is sitting at $414,000 once we start that process. And future capital leases, which are the $923,000 in capital that the guys, equipment and vehicles, is sitting at $134,000. So when you show that, the 1.2 coming in and the 1.0 going out, you got a excess there, $128,000, which is your net change. And then you look at your ending fund balance. Fund balance ending 1.1. And so this is where I don't have a pointer, so I have to get up and show you, but if you look at your chart, the symbol of this whole mess is this number here. The ending fund balance should pay next year's bills, if you will. And you can see we're short $35,000. And you see next year we're over 60 if we do a $1 million increase. This should pay this should pay this. And that's how you're gonna look at it. This should have paid this year's, and you see we were short 59,000. So those come out of those rainy day funds, folks,
James, I have a problem with this page that was given to us.
okay?
This year's budget, the FY20 budget is a base on FY19, which had a base on FY18, right?
Right.
Okay. When I look at FY18, 30,898 and 480,652 together don't make 607,000. They make 511,550, which changes your ending balance to a different number. And then on FY19, 30,898 and 608,243 don't come out to 668, they come out to 639.
Okay.
So when you start plugging those numbers, now this year the FY21 balances out, but if you're taking the funding, the ending balance for this year and moving, I mean, the very fact that the expense or the debt service is different, that means there's gonna be a different ending balance.
Sure. Now, the ending balance ties for 18 ties to the financial statements. So I need to see what else is in there. There might be some columns hidden in there that shouldn't be. I mean, those numbers tied directly to that. So I certainly will look at that and get you an answer first thing in the morning on those two columns.
Cause I played with this thing for, must have been an hour trying to figure out, to get these numbers to skew some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And if we're using the past 2 years as a base to do the current one, that's $120,000 difference.
Okay, I'll certainly look at that and get you an answer.
Again, that's based on the audited actuals.
Yeah, the actuals are tied right to the audit, so we need to see what's missing out of there, what's not in there. And I know those tied, because I looked at those myself this morning. But I'll get you an answer. First thing in the morning, we'll get that to you.
Good, because that leaves me questioning FY20.
Sure. And that's why this is proposed budget, so we all take a look and see what's there, sure.
Not only after we look at it, we'll correct this and email it out to her.
Sure, if there's a correction needed, sure.
Okay. I can live with that.
And like I said, I see
The,
that.
actually pragmatically, the process, going over numbers, is it, you enter numbers in the computer and it tabulates them automatically?
We get the revenues from the county, they send us a big spreadsheet, and we drop it into a spreadsheet. Now it's all done on an Excel spreadsheet. We don't have a computer program that does that now. It's all us crunching the numbers and working the numbers, and there's several of us. The computer program is the Excel worksheet, so that's why that's interesting that that doesn't add down, but there could be a column hidden in there, and I'll certainly get that answer.
Or maybe a line item that's hidden.
Right. A line, right. And that rolls, so those numbers roll into the equipment replacement plan that was put together by the management team, and that's the next page, page 20. And so, the blue column again is what's suggested for this year to replace. You see by department, admin, fleet, solid waste, and the next page is fire, I believe, and then the total. And projected out each year. And so when you look at those payments, they're projected out back on page 19 each year, and you can see where they increase and they drop off, and the capital leases drop.
What was that stuff in yellow on the previous?
That was the ones that were suggested to be replaced originally. And so we left those in yellow, and some of them were shifted out. You can see this easy trailer and this dump truck. And the next page.
This is- Okay, so, I'm looking at, so fleet is asking for a new, Ford truck,
Yes, ma'am.
and so that's been put in the budget, so they'll get a new truck. And, solid waste, they're gonna get a transfer truck. So it's been, budgeted for them to get a packet truck, a dump truck, and a pickup truck. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, solid waste will be getting those, so that'll be capital, expense, correct?
Right, capital lease, yes.
What about, the other stuff that you have marked in yellow, I see solid waste asked for a trailer, so they won't be getting that, huh?
All right, they pushed that out another year, based on that 330,000. I don't think that's a Packer, I think that's a, like you said in his CIP presentation, a one-arm truck he showed you a little video on. So he pushed some stuff out a year.
Yeah, I'm looking and, I have no problem cutting, the budget, but, when we start cutting, we gotta think in terms of safety. And when I think in terms of, these guys need these trucks and the trailers and stuff, we gotta think in terms of safety. They put their life on the line every day. And I think that, these guys, if they're asking for stuff like trucks and stuff that they use every day, I don't think we need to, kind of forget about those things. We need to keep those things, those should be high priority. And that's my thinking.
How many transfer trucks do we have?
That's Walter, that.
Well, we have, had to put me on the spot.
Walter, can you please come up?
We run 21 pieces of equipment. We
Okay.
have 2 spare packers, 3 that are frontline, and 4 machines at the moment, 3 that are frontline, and the rest of them are either dump trucks or packers. But dump trucks or what we call transfer trailers that we are phasing out. We're not gonna be using trailer setups anymore. Any trailers that go out the door are gonna be replaced with a regular dump truck.
What is the thing called that picks up the bags and puts it in the truck?
That's a tink claw.
What?
A tink claw that attaches to the wheel loader, yeah.
Walter, would you just take a minute? I think it's important. I think they've heard it before, but this special factor, what it's gonna do potentially logistically.
Sure.
It's not only gonna cost us a little bit in the front end, but there's a return on the investment.
Excuse me, can you come up so we
Sure.
can hear you? It's very hard.
I'm pretty loud on my own back here, trust me.
I know you work all day, but I still have trouble.
The automated side loader is gonna take a 3-person operation, turn it into a 1-person operation. And it's gonna save salaries over time. And again, no one will be laid off, no one will be let go. People will leave through the natural process, attrition, or however that works out. But, you know, the long term, I think, I don't have the figure right in front of me, but I think benefits and salaries, the savings for 2 associates is somewhere around $75,000 a year. That's just one truck. I mean, my goal is to eventually have another, at least 2 automated trucks out there. And again, it's all looking to the future to save some labor costs.
So that's the Packer.
That's, yeah, it's not a packer, actually, it's an automated side loader.
That's fine.
It looks like a soda can you lay it on its side.
Yeah, basically, it looks like a tin can with an arm on it, but I picked up a lot of trash in my life, and it's the best way to pick up garbage, and hands down, the most efficient, best way to do it.
So theoretically, we have 3 trucks, 3 packers. This was a plan, possibly 3, maybe 2.
I would, depending on how much, I mean, I'm not sure of the production I'm gonna get out of this particular vehicle yet. I know what it can do, because I ran one for 5 years. My goal was to have 2 automated trucks doing the whole entire island, with maybe 1 packer truck doing a little bit of the tighter areas that I don't really want the truck to go into, but that's the goal. We should be able to get a lot more production out of an automated truck than we do the way we're doing it now. And nothing against the folks that are doing that, it's just a lot more efficient.
But I ask you
Yes.
a direct question. Do you have all of the equipment that you need to operate on a daily basis? Do you have what you need? Yes or no?
Yes, at the moment, but, you know, we've got some stuff that's aging out. That's where we're at. I mean, I have what I need, yes. I mean, honestly, answer that, at the moment, I have what I need. Is it going to last until next year or something? That's another question I can't answer.
That was my question. Are you
That's a
comfortable?
today answer, that's not, that's, 2 months from now, that could change.
Are you comfortable with a trailer that's 18 years old and a truck that's 14 years
Well,
old?
I'm probably more comfortable with the 18-year-old trailer than I am with a 5-year-old truck, because there's a difference between the quality from 18 years ago than there is now, and that's something that we, we don't want to, that 18-year-old trailer that you're talking about is a spare trailer, it rarely leaves the yard, it's basically, if we're stuck, we have it there. But it's something we all need to take into consideration when we're buying equipment. It is not made like it was 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, if I would like to go out and buy a bunch of 1984 Macs and put dump truck bodies in them. I'd probably get a whole lot more life out of what I got of what we buy new these days. And that's just the reality of the situation. Emissions, electronics, they're just not built the way they used to be. And that's something that we need to think about.
Another question. We used to pick up solid waste twice a week. We went to once a week because it was supposed to have been a cost saving. And with that cost saving, we should have been able to have whatever kind of equipment that you guys need to work on a daily basis. So, I'd like to know, from the time that we went to once a week, garbage picking up, what kind of savings we have, and no one has been able to, show the saving from once a week.
I can reach into that a little bit, I don't have figures right in front of me. It's great to save money, we wanna be more efficient to save money, but savings get eaten up. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation, fuel goes up every year. When we talk about saving money, we're really just spending off future costs as much as we can. Every dime we save, I can guarantee you fuel's gonna go up again next year. You know, the cost of steel may go through the roof, and, you know, trucks may be, you know, right now, we're looking at a 3 to 4% increase yearly on equipment. Next year, it could be 10%, we just don't know, it depends on material usage, but everything we save, generally, unfortunately, in the future, is gonna get eaten up somewhere, but we're trying to balance it out, we're trying to keep the cost increases down to a minimum. We did take one truck out of the mix. We used to have 4 Packers on the road, now we only have 3. We were able to reduce that end of it, and, again, you know, I think we saved a lot of money over the years taking that truck off the road in fuel, labor, overtime, but again, it ends up just, you know, fending other things off.
Saying that the 4 vehicles you're talking about here, that they make it through the process, what kind of trade-in or resale, or what's the process of what they're gonna be replacing? What are we gonna be doing with that?
We sell everything, anything that gets replaced gets sold, it's usually on gov deals. And that's, we're probably not gonna get a lot of money, you're not gonna get a lot of money from an 11-year-old dump truck, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, there's no work equity left in it, it's just past its prime, and that's another thing we may wanna think about in the future is, I'm sure that Chris and Steve would agree with me, why it's important for us to stick to the replacement schedule, because we wanna get rid of things while we still have a little bit of resale value. We wanna try to, I mean, you know, we're not always gonna be successful at that, but you know, you're gonna have you're gonna have a better chance of selling a 7-year-old dump truck or a 6-year-old, 7 or 8-year-old dump truck than you are an 11 or 12-year-old dump truck. You're gonna get a little money back and that's why I think that it's important in the future we do the best we can. It's not always feasible, and this is just my opinion, I'm just offering my professional opinion, but that's why we really need to watch what we do when we replace vehicles. You don't wanna give stuff away on the other end, you know, especially heavy equipment and stuff like that.
Okay, the other part of that question was, with these 4 vehicles that you're talking about replacing, you had a line item on outside vehicle repairs of $25,000 that you were putting in for. Is that gonna go down any because of the?
We did cut that.
here?
If you'd already cut that
We
based on
already
these
cut that
proposals,
based
right?
on those vehicles being in the,
So, that 25,000 comes out.
yes.
No, that 25,000 already is cut, that will
Yes,
stay.
that's right, I'm sorry, James is right.
He may have had it, I don't have the number in front of me,
35, 40 or something like that.
50, 60,000, he cut it based on getting these new vehicles.
It was cut based on getting the new
Okay,
vehicles.
so it's reduced.
Yes.
Why is it so much on outside vehicle repairs if we're getting the new vehicles? The ones that we're keeping or?
Well, you know, even if,
condition?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but even if we replace what we replace, I'm still left with, I think, 4 or 5 vehicles that are still very old, and you know, and a lot of stuff, when it's an outside repair, it's going to a dealer, Your labor rates go up every year, and, you know, stuff is harder to, you're chasing parts, I mean, the bottom line is there's still some vehicles out there that have a lot of age to them that are still gonna probably cost me a lot of money to fix in the long term.
Because these remaining ones would be to the point where our intern wouldn't be able to handle them.
Well, some things we can't, you know, you're not gonna do you're not gonna do an injector system in-house, and again, we're back to electronics. Steve can put the injectors on, but he's not allowed to have the programming. Caterpillar and Cummins, they're only gonna give you so much,
Enough said.
and then they're gonna stop. You know?
I understand Caterpillar.
Yeah,
I do want, I don't have it yet, but I do want to thank you after the wedding for picking up my 20 bags of
okay,
trash.
we do that for everybody.
That was just amazing.
A lot of folks call us when they have events like that, we take care of them, so.
Yeah, my overstuffed trash can and 20
It's okay.
bags.
You won't find me this time. I'm just teasing.
I got it.
Anybody else, yeah, have anything else? No?
You did good.
Thank you.
Before we go ahead, while he was talking, I pulled up this Excel spreadsheet, and line 20, you can see my mouse up there now, was hidden. And those were capital outlay for those years. It shouldn't have been hidden on your report, 96 and 29, so if you tally those right down there, it tallies to 607 and the 668. So on what you're looking at, this somehow was hidden.
So the numbers are correct. You
The numbers
just
are
had to hit
correct,
them on-
right?
Right.
And I
And
would-
you'll send us a reprint with
Yes,
the
I'll send you this with the
credits.
open, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And again, I don't mind anybody asking, because typically there's an answer, and that's what the answer was. Those were capital outlay that we actually paid out of the expense line. They were not a lease. All
Is there
right,
any way to do that now by weird stretch of the imagination? Like, could we print it and get copies?
I could hand it to them tonight, once we're done.
Okay.
Let's go back to, look, this current slide.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna slip out and meet my chauffeur, because it's time for medicine. You don't want me staggering around like I've had a few drinks. You did a great job, James.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just the vertigo. You never figure a broken neck gives you vertigo.
So again, like I said earlier in our presentation, this is the biggest piece that the management team sits down and goes over. There's those vehicles and assets that they need, and then, again, things get slid in 1 year, 2 years. And so, that's what we came up with as a team for all the departments.
Excuse me, I need to ask Walter one more question. What's the lifespan on that Packard?
The new one, I would say 8 years, 8 plus on the automated one.
Thank you.
That's a guess too, don't quote me on that, I don't, but I couldn't,
Unless it's 11 and then it's a year and a
yeah.
half.
I mean, that's what I'd like to see us get out of it,
All right.
And then we were gonna do by department, let them speak a little bit about their budget again, what they've added. And so, since I've spoken so much, even though administration includes finance and human resources, I was gonna see if Lisa had anything to speak about, mostly just the general fund and wastewater. Anything you wanted to mention?
You've covered it all, James.
All right, so on general fund personnel services, a 4.8% increase due to staff percentage reallocation. Sure,
Where are you now?
I'm on page 22, slide 22 up in the right corner.
Oh, okay, all right.
And what we did is, we looked at all the staff. Typically, everybody in the admin building was 50/50 wastewater and general fund, and that's the way it's always been since I got here. Talking with our auditor, and again, our financial advisor, and myself and Robert, giving our input, customer service, the three ladies up front were 100% wastewater. We found that wasn't what actually occurs. They do a lot more than just wastewater. And so we reallocated their salaries over to the general fund. So you'll see when you look at your detail sheets, the general fund salaries increase a little bit on the admin side, but decrease over on the wastewater admin side. Because we've allocated them now 60-40 as opposed to 100% wastewater. And we've also, we're taking a look, we haven't decided yet on some others, like Lisa's 50-50, myself's 50-50, and what are we really working on? So we're doing some more projections there. Whether those will squeeze into this budget, you guys will know about, but probably more likely next year. Because it's really not a 50-50 split based on the number of employees in each department.
Is that a new reasoning?
We just think that's more fair of what they actually do. Again, the ladies up front are now considered finance, and you'll see later, they do a lot of stuff for this projection. They do a lot of revenue management on accounts receivable and a lot of internal auditing that we weren't doing before. So instead of just wastewater calls and taking bills, they're doing a lot more stuff than just wastewater. They're doing stuff, taking calls for fires, they're taking calls for solid waste on a daily basis. There's a lot of stuff, and actually got a list put together of everything that they do. So we've shared that money across the two funds. I think Mr. Wise originally told me, I guess at one time way back, wastewater had more money than anybody else, so that's why they were allocated 100% there, as opposed to where we are now, where we're kind of balanced funds, if that's correct, or if you want to speak to that.
No, that's correct.
So we're using the same money, we're just putting it in different places.
Right. And so that's why you see an increase there. There's no staff increase, no pay raises. It was just, we shifted those funds, and you'll see a similar decrease on the other side.
And that area was also one of the areas that you reduced, where you dropped
Right.
one person.
We originally, 4.5 people up there, they had a part-time courier. We reduced that part-time courier and also a full-time staff. And the 3 that are up there now handle what 4.5 used to handle. Operating and maintenance on the general fund decreased, like I said, by 1.2%. I've included in the budget by a request that the Brilliant Group and Mr. Hancock come for quarterly training to the commission. Whatever y'all set that schedule to be and whatever you want to be trained on, he's more than willing to do that, but there's a cost associated, so we've included that. On the wastewater fund, personnel services, it did increase by 2.1. The operating maintenance decreased by 16.3, and a lot of that 16.3 is we're reclassifying, just like we did our financial statements. We're taking those expenses that shouldn't be in operation and maintenance, putting them on the balance sheet as work in process. And that was what Mr. Hancock handled on his restatement of the financials. In a little bit, you'll see you'll see a new rate study I'm going to show you. The figures to the rate study, what they came up with and what we agree with. We'd like that to be implemented starting October. There's an increase in the sewer treatment of $300,000. And if David wanted to speak to that, you may at his portion, but that's the master meter out at Plum Island.
And that's what we're trying to get by October.
We're trying to increase the rate studies. We want to implement the rates. They got to go through CWS and Folly Beach reviews them. I think CWS is more important based on the MOU. And then we give our residents 60 days notice, so we're hoping for October of an implementation date. Because if we waited till January, I think that might have been mentioned, then we got another one projected for July of next year, and they're small, you'll see them here in a minute. There's 2 in 1 year, and they will get phone calls on that. If we did one in October and one in July of next year, it's 1 per year. And they're very minor, you'll see those coming up here. Chief Seabolt?
Does anybody have any questions? For me, as you've heard before, I'm recommending to freeze 3 firefighter positions. That was so we could make the general fund budget without the tax increase. And hopefully, sometime later on, we'll be able to.
Does that mean
put
you're
those
gonna
things-
have more overtime? I don't understand.
Not really. We're gonna keep 3 people at Station 2. That's the smallest station. And our goal has always been to run 4, but
That's probably right.
yes, ma'am. But we run short, we're short staffed almost all the time. As soon as we hire people leave. And, we're in the same boat basically as everybody else. We're all hiring. right now in the county. Some people are worse off than we
Seen,
are.
read articles in other states where they're actually just having to close down stations, they don't have enough money.
Right. And I certainly hope, that that is not gonna be the case. But I feel like, freezing these 3 FTEs for now, again, hopefully sometime in the future, we can get more revenue through, reassessment or whatever happens. And I'd like to earn that, but for now, being as short as we are all the time, cuts down on a lot of work that we have to do, plus, took, again, as you can see, approximately $156,000 out of the general fund budget.
That was their budget, that was their salaries and benefits, approximately $156,000 for the 3 positions. And they were firefighter positions.
And that can be impacted by turnover, and potentially the turnover being greater could be impact the overtime. So we're monitor that very carefully.
This capital outlay, that's for the, new radio system?
Yes, ma'am. Motorola, the current walkie-talkies and radios that we use in the fire trucks, Motorola doesn't make nor service them anymore. 2 years ago, the county switched to this new radio system. The latest, greatest Motorola stuff. And when they switched 2 years ago, everybody that's on the county system was given a 3-year price lock by Motorola to purchase them. And December of this year is the end of that, and it's an approximate 40% reduction in cost, and it's a 1-for-1 trade. So we trade out a radio, and then we get a radio in at a discount. We've also cut a lot of the radios that we have, so we will be able to sell, some of those, and hopefully people that are looking for parts and other things will be able to sell some. But originally we had a great deal more. We were expecting around 600,000 to cover the radios, but between Chief Blake and Chief Engelman and I, we whittled it down to 339.98.
So till December, they'll let y'all trade in the ones that they can't service, can't do anything with, and any surplus, you're still gonna try to just part them out, sell them
Yes, ma'am.
for parts.
So if that doesn't go through, then in 21 or 22, we'll be paying 100% of the cost, and they're roughly $6,000 to $8,000 per radio. So 40% is a pretty good deal.
Chief, I have to change gears. Looking at your line item that you have here, scares the bejesus out of me to see the number of decreases in your budget. Like you've got $2,700 less for new tires. Almost $13,000 for inside repairs on the vehicles. Just those two things. Well, I'll pick one more. $23,000 less for fire suppression supplies. What's
Well,
going on?
Well, that was cut to meet the percentage that was recommended to you by Mr. Wise and the CFO. And the fire suppression supplies, that was some additional equipment that we were gonna purchase, and we'll just have to wait on it.
Is it going to leave you short in any way, shape, or form, or what?
Hope not. My best guess is that we will be okay. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the best that I can give you. I'm hoping that, it's gonna be tight, way tighter than it's been before.
The internal repairs have come down based on the fact of the 2 new wheels.
Correct.
Okay, what about the tires, though? You're still going to be chewing up tires.
We're gonna try to get some this year and hold them until next year.
Not hitting potholes, too, right? What about building maintenance? $4,600 less there. And $6,600 less on PPE.
We cut,
You
you got less people and you're gonna get a new building.
Well, and we cut, you know, again, to meet the budget, you know, without having a tax increase.
But
So
you're not putting anybody on any kind of hazard or danger or anything like that.
No, sir.
So
We're just pushing off our replacement.
But I think the PPEs you mentioned were replaced prior 3 years, and so that was a decrease because they were already replaced 3 years.
Right, we have a 7-year,
7 years.
you know, replacement schedule. So we were gonna replace, I think, 15 next year, and we're gonna replace 10.
PPEs, personal protective equipment,
Yes, ma'am.
we got to speak this link.
See what you
And the other thing, the fire prevention and education. Not gonna be sending the guys to the classes quickly?
We've cut training, some, and fire prevention and education. We've cut that. One of the things that we had in there, we were gonna get our own, bounce house, a big fire truck one, that was about 7,000. That was around 7,000, so we've cut that. We're gonna push it off another year, and we're gonna, again, try to order some stuff, you know, before the end of this budget cycle. You know, we're gonna see where we are at the end of the month here in May to see exactly how much money we have to play with.
Okay, so we're not losing anything, we're just not replacing or upgrading.
I have problem with some of what I'm hearing, because, you know, when we start, especially safety, I think in terms from a nurse's point of view, safety is the first law in my book. And, you know, tires and all those things, those, I have a lot of problem with cutting, stuff that and I'm sorry, we gotta find some other way of cutting, but I don't think we should cut what, things like anything to do with safety. That's my,
Well, just as Mr. Gaines spoke to at the beginning.
well, I'm just
I'm sorry.
representing, I'm having a lot of trouble because we got to keep safety. Safety is our number one business. You guys risk your life, and I don't wanna hear we cutting, the necessities. I can see cutting, we need to do something about that electrical bills and those kinds of things. We can cut those things, but when it comes to stuff that's pertaining to safety, I have a real problem.
So if, like, for example, something happens and we need a bunch of new tires or
Yeah, we
engine,
can.
or we can go into our rainy day fund, can't we?
Sure, we can do that, and just like Mr. Gaines spoke to at the beginning, the bottom line is the bottom line, and that's where we try to stay. And you can look over previous budgets and you'll see, like, for example, you know, maintenance and other things are almost always over, just because of the, you know, the age of the fleet. Certainly the new fire trucks are gonna help, but we've been lucky, if you wanna call it lucky, that our open positions, our salary lines, have been able to cover the budget. And then there's other things like we didn't do, like, for example, this year, we had budgeted to put a second bathroom in Fire Station 2, but other things went over, so we did not do that.
Is that one of the building improvements that now got disappeared again for next year?
Sir?
And
We had some ice machines and some other things in there, and cut those, and pushed them off.
Just scrub the rust off of
Okay.
those. Oh, boy. Thank you.
Yes, sir?
Steve, Mr. Hayden, Fleet Services.
Good evening, team. How you guys doing? Okay. We did our part in cutting. well, first, I mean, it's hard for me to see from over here, but, you know, we're still getting fees from Folly Beach for next year. We're actually going up a little bit to help out. Ours increased by 5.2%. And what I cut out this year to help, you know, so it won't be a tax increase on the public, I cut out my training for my personal self. I didn't want to do it to my guys. I cut out transmission because we have a vehicle in the budget now, so I need to replace that $4,000 transmission. And some building maintenance. I need to get a better angle next time.
His annual revenue sits at about
There we
$115,000 he
go.
brings in from Folly Beach, so it's about $9,500 a month he brings in by servicing their vehicles.
That's both maintenance and parking.
Yep.
And parking.
Parking back. No questions, good.
Oh, no, you're not off the hook yet. I noticed on your line item that, budget that you're gonna be actually one of two that's having a sizable increase in your funding for buildings maintenance.
Yeah, the age of my building, if you take a look at it, you actually can walk out and see the paint just falling off the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm leading up to, since everybody else is getting a cut as
Right.
far as the building maintenance,
Right.
are you taking over for everybody else?
I'm taking over everybody else. I've taken the cuts for a long time for everybody else, but, and like I said, you know, that's where my guys live and work. I gotta have the building going. You know, if I don't have no power, no grid going on in there, there's nothing being done. You know, as this past year, I had buckets sitting upstairs, placed everywhere, every time it rained. We were personally saving money for the district by us going on the roof and placing the glass sunlights. I mean, we're trying everything to cut down.
So you're gonna be able to do a lot more for all of the other divisions as far as internal repair.
Yeah, I mean, well, fingers crossed, right. I'm limited to a lot of things, like Walter was saying earlier. When you come to government regulations like the new trucks have, the depth tanks, exhaust systems, you know, government doesn't let me touch that stuff, so all that's gotta be sent out. That's what a lot of our cost comes from, especially on the Cat engines.
On the building maintenance repair, that's gonna be done primarily by
David
David.
Major does that.
I mean, he's happy to hear that.
But Steve has done a lot of physical maintenance on buildings and stuff on his own, which he has done for the building he has back there. So I'm somewhat fearful of getting up there and patching up all these holes and getting around those skylights and replacing glass, but he's saving a considerable amount of money.
You know, I see some people are using the metal buildings, this wood and stuff. It's very expensive, utility is going through the roof. I mean, what do y'all gonna do about that? The building's old, it's, the utility bill is, you can cut back on that if you, do something with the building. That's a cost saving, cutting back, looking at the kind of energy efficient. I don't get it.
So we did that for station one.
Yeah, but what you do, in the meantime, you got these other old buildings that, costing a lot to heat and cool.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. President?
I think I went over a little of this already, but most of our increases, diesel fuel, cost of diesel continues to go up. It's gone up, it's taken a good bump the past few years. We spent a little more money on high visibility uniforms and shirts for all our folks that are on the ground. That's obviously a safety safety issue. We want them to be seen out there. Again, outside repairs on older units get more and more expensive every year. There was a increase this year in the district insurance, and there's a increase this year in building maintenance. We've got a roof that's in pretty rough shape back there. got some pretty good leaks in there that we'd like to get repaired. And roll card inventory, that's, you know, that's the cost of doing business. We have to make sure we have the cards for our folks that need them, new homes, repairs, and anybody have any other questions? Thank you.
Hang on just a minute. Over, temporary employees,
Yes.
are you finding them a problem to get? Or are we gonna be able to convert some of them into full-time, or how are we still doing some of that?
You know, we don't have any problem finding temp employees. We do, everybody that we hire, we try to vet through a temp agency, which is why we have that amount budgeted. Those don't always work out. We've had plenty of people that have gone through the process, they've stayed the 90 days, we made them an offer, and they either don't accept the offer, some people don't show up. I mean, that's just that happens to everybody, not just us, but we don't have any issues getting temporary help. Sometimes we have issues getting temporary drivers, but lately, we have a lot of folks looking to come here. I get calls a lot lately of people asking me if we're looking for anybody, so right now, we're in a good spot. 6 months from now, you know, who knows, it's unpredictable. There's an enormous CDL driver shortage countrywide. They claim there's about 60,000 drivers short nationwide for CDL drivers, so.
What endorsements they need to work with you?
CDL-B, that's all you need, that's all that's required. A or B, doesn't have to be an A, either or. That's really our only requirement, that you can pass the
Some of the
usual.
regulations they put on a CDL driver are
Yeah,
a little bit out of date.
yeah, well, you have to have a valid medical card, a DOT certificate, a DOT certified medical card. Other than that, it's really about it. But again, for the shortage that's out there, we do really well. You know, we manage to keep up with it. Thanks.
You and Steve are getting hit with the building maintenance, huh?
Yeah, well, we want to stand out in the crowd, I guess.
One of those past ones we've been pushing off and pushing off.
Yeah, we've pushed the roof off of my building off for a couple of years now. It's getting to the point where it's getting pretty bad. You're welcome.
All right, we'll move into the wastewater proprietary fund now. And just briefly, the revenues are projected 3.0% projected revenue increase due to the rate study. And again, we're asking for implementation of 10-119 for that. Operating and non-operating expenditures, there's lower M&R because we moved some of that stuff by the audit and reclassified it again this year to follow our policy. Sewer treatments is 2.4 million, which I said was up 300,000. And there's a reduction in the O&M based on moving that stuff as well of 186,000 for this current fiscal year. This is their proprietary fund. At the top, you got the service charges in the blue column going down. You got your fees, our tap fees, impact fees, and other income. Those are all based on when those rates go into effect. Below that, your operating expenses, your non-operating expenses, total expenses of 1.4. And the key thing at the bottom is your net position, but we're looking at that debt service coverage number. And like we said last week, we want that to be at 1.2 or 1.25 for the banks. We want, for the district, we've set it at 1.50. So we're sitting at 1.72 based on these projections for this current fiscal year, proposed budget, excuse me. The next page, 28, is the appendix for the rate study that David's going to talk about in a minute and some of his changes. I can't see this too well, but I think first year it's a 53-cent increase. You see at the top there in the gray, I have tax increases, the rate increase each year. I think it's hard for me to see here, 82 cent. $4.89. The total for 5 years is $4.19. And we're proposing each of those Julys to go up those amounts, and this is based again on that rate study and our projections and talking with them. And
And you said you're gonna go up on, the rate study goes until that when?
we were hoping October 1st, if you approve it through the budget, to implement that rate study. And it would go up the first year. Again, I'm having problems seeing, I think it says
Don't
55 cents.
53 cents,
53? 53 cents.
and then 82.
Okay, there you go, yeah. And then 82 cents the next year, 89 cents. And this is the base charge. And then what I did on the far right column where it says total change on all those other ones for the total change over the 5 years. It's kind of hard to squeeze all that in, but I can certainly do some more if you want, but try and show you the total change. We've adjusted some of the fees to more in line with CWS and what other entities are charging. We've added a tap re-inspection fee. There's many times that the guys go out, we charge $100, they do a tap inspection, and they have to go back. So if your inspection doesn't pass and we have to go back, we want to charge that, and I think CWS and North Charleston Sewer District and a lot of them charge a re-inspection fee to come back out and do it. I mean, it should pass the first time if you got a licensed plumber. We've adjusted the service connection fee and the transportation impact fee. It is $805 to $1210, which is a $400 adjustment. That's typically developers pay that on their development. And that's to meet the needs of the systems over the next.
Excuse me,
Yes.
James, so that's new, right? The, re-inspection fee.
The
is gonna be-
re-inspection fee is, right.
That's new.
That's what we're proposing, yes, to re-inspect the same property. We do go out and inspect it one time for $100.
And then if you go out the second time, it's $150?
Yeah, I think, you want to speak to any of that, or, I mean, they're going back out and look at it a second time because it wasn't properly installed.
Right, I understand.
So we're trying to,
I don't have any problem of, if you
Right.
go out the second time, you're gonna charge $150 second time. Well, I think as long as we get this information out so people will know that, these fees and stuff is what we, proposing, because I don't like taking people by surprise. I think we need to let them know that, that we're starting this re-connection fee.
Re-inspection fee, re-inspection fee,
Yes,
yes.
what I'm saying that I think it's to our advantage to inform people so they'll know.
sure.
But I have no problem with them, I think that,
And I think we'll do it several different ways, between social media, the newsletter,
yeah,
obviously
just
our
get it out
website,
the
60
public.
days notice, right, before we,
Yeah, we may do an insert to the actual fee page, of course, be on the website, we'll also, tag it, and link it for a couple other areas.
Right, just get it out, I don't know, however you do it, just get it out so people will know.
And we'll run it a couple of times in the island up there.
right. And if you look all the way to Folly Beach Wholesale, we haven't adjusted Folly Beach Wholesale, and either Joanne or David could speak to that in several, I would say,
Since I've been here.
8, 10, 12 years. So we had him look at that as part of the rate study, and it should have been in the past. So we've adjusted that 5 years out, you see, based on their wholesale charges, what we charge them.
I want to back up to the tap inspection you need. I mean, I'm not gonna be the one who's gonna be doing this, so who does the initial tap inspection? You do.
Nathan does.
And who does, oh boy, we in trouble.
It was a bus.
So, and he only goes out if,
They come, they draw a permit, and when they get ready for us to inspect it, they'll call us. We'll go out and inspect it.
somebody supposedly who has a license and knows what they're doing.
Right. And that's supposed to be correct when we get there. If it's not correct when we get there, then we'll come back and we'll charge them an extra $150 when we go back. It won't take long for them to catch on, then they have to do it right the first time.
But this doesn't come out of the homeowner's pocket, this
No.
stuff comes out of the contractor.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
for the plumber's pocket.
That's one big, free lunch out of everybody.
James, these figures, going back to, page 27, I'm just curious, it's, no biggie, but, done. I can look at all these, but page 27. But do you start off with, in some cases, you're dealing with cents or all the figures, not, dollars. For example, proposed budget, blue column, that's $1 more than what my middle edition comes up with. And then go to that projection for fiscal year 21, $1 less. So I just wondering, if you
Rounds up or down.
If it rounds up or down, there is some sense in there, but we don't show that. There is sense in there, so it rounds up or down, the total. There's a formula in there.
If it's 0.51 cents, then they will
No, it
recognize
doesn't
what
matter.
it is.
Yeah, we do use, yeah, there is sense in there based on
Yeah,
that.
then it rounds back.
We want to capture that 53-cent increase or that 84-cent increase, so we do include those cents.
So, can you tell me what the percent, that first year, the percent, I know it's 53 cents, but what's that in percentages? Is that?
I have to have my little calculator.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's,
Got my phone here.
okay.
It's going up from, your book, see, 1702.
That's an increase of 53 cents per what?
Base charge, base charge.
It's just the base charge, that's the base charge that we charge every month. They can use water, or water bill pays, tells them what they have to pay, so up to that, if they don't use any water at all, the base charge covers that cost. Anything over that is what they pay extra with the base charge.
What's the cutoff? I don't remember what's the cutoff on that, for residential.
For-
Do you remember?
TCS.
1660.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a little less than 5%.
Less than 5%. Closer to 4.
Anyway,
So what we would post out to the public would be the first two columns on our website. We wouldn't put the projections out there until they are closer to happening. Obviously, in the budget, it would be included, but not on our actual website when these are approved.
And these will require approval every year.
Yeah.
If for some reason to change it, we find out that it's not enough or it's too much, then we'll adjust and go back.
And that's where Mr. Wildan said he would come back and adjust. He'd like to look at it every year and a half and see if we need to adjust up or down.
We can do that ourselves.
Right, sure. We got a great model now,
Great
right?
model.
Right, we got a great model now to work with. Or like Mr. Platt's asking, a computerized program that'll do it. All right, Mr. Hoffman.
Treatment and rate volume. CWS is in the process of reinstalling their flow meter at Plum Island. Right now that we have been probably gaining on them. Our flow meter shows us using more, or pumping more to them than what their flow meter shows. They put in a new flow meter that's caught up with ours. So our cost of paying for that treatment has gone up by about a quarter. And so that's gonna cost us over the next year, and that's why we're doing our SSES and trying to get out the inflow and infiltration to bring that cost down. So we're looking at that. Our capital outlay, 2 garage doors for building number 3 because they're wore out. Automatic gate opener at Signal Point, $7,800. So when people work late, they don't have to get out and open the gate. If we have females here that's staying late, the gate will close. They don't have to get out to open the gate. They just drive out and the gate closes behind them. And it's good for us on the weekends when we have people on call. go out and the gate closes behind them, so we don't have people just wandering in and out, without being, restricted by having the gate open. We're looking at putting in a new locker room over in building 3 for, my staff. That's a bathroom, a shower, and some lockers. 4 new vehicles, a new, SUV, 2 F-250s and 1 F-150. That's $152. $150. Yeah, there you go. It's been a long day. We're at the same place, sort of like the chief. We have radios in our SCADA system that they're no longer gonna service. So we have to replace those, and we're starting that this coming year, and that's $65,000. Miscellaneous supplies of $18,900, a valve exerciser. We have to exercise all our valves on all our force mains every year to make sure those things will open and close. So we have an emergency, we can open and close them. And this exerciser actually is a hydraulic machine that you put on the valve. It spins it up, spins it down, and it saves a lot of back pain for people. We're getting another trailer, a smaller trailer for our track home. We're selling the bigger trailer. Need a new traffic control trailer, which we carry all our cones and barrels and signs in that we pull out to job site and set everything up. And then a bed topper to go on one of the trucks. Maintenance repairs for manholes and lines, pump station equipment, that's reduced. Mostly that reduction came from moving things that are capital items out of the operating budget and putting more than they're supposed to be.
Go one more page here on your projects.
As you know, we're putting in phase 1 and 2 for the pump station, number 2. In fact, we got our second pull done this week and tested today. That's in the process. Next year, we want to upgrade the pump station number 2. And we can't use the entire force main until we revamp that pump station because it's not big enough to pump to the new line. And that's also gives us that extra capacity that we need on that side of the island. And that's in process. Pump station number 33, that's an FY21. Pump station 34, not 334, 34 and 22. What we're gonna do is replace the pumps in those stations. We're going to put in some new variable speed drives that will let us control the amount of sewage that it pumps at a time. So when we have big heavy rains and pump station 11 is running, we can balance all those stations out through our SCADA system to make sure that we're pumping water all the time instead of having the head of one station or the pressure from one station cutting off the smaller stations. So that we're doing that to keep sewer out of the stormwater when it comes through.
It's easier on your pumps too, right?
Yes, it's easier on the pumps, and it's actually cheaper to run them all the time than it is to start and stop them, because then you have a big surge in your electric bill because you're ginning those things up.
This is gonna be remote access more than,
Well, we can do it remote access, but we'll generally set them to run that way. Jeff can set that up, or we can do it remotely, depending on the weather conditions.
that's what I'm talking about, if
Yeah.
you need to do an override.
Yeah, yeah. The SSES, the Sanitary Sewer Evaluation System, found projects, that's already started. We have $1 million in it next year to go and fix those things that we found that were deficits in the system. And we'll be doing that over the next 5 years to make sure that we catch all the defects in the line. We're starting with the most severe, working to the less severe. One of the things that we did move out, other projects that used to be in the operating budget before they were moved out, and now they're put back where they were several years ago. Sewer pump station rehab of $200,000 a year. These are our smaller stations where we go in and repipe them, put new pumps in them, line the wet wells, new power panels, and just kind of rebuild the stations. And these are the smaller stations, probably 1 horsepower to 10 horsepower stations for the most part. And that's what we use that money for. Done.
All right, you got your next slide, that says, equipment that he mentioned, and that's his scheduled equipment replacement plan. Yeah.
I know it's a little nitpicky thing, David, but, on one of these ones that we're given, the vehicles, you had them at 536.02, which would be building improvements. Should be 536.04.
That's probably just typo.
I know it is, but you don't need to stick it in the wrong slot.
Oh, we won't do that.
Ooh.
No, the big items like that, no, we usually don't make mistakes. The little things we might, but not the big ones, you know.
And that's part of the problem with using Excel spreadsheets. Our new software will have doc where they can drop the numbers in, it forwards over to me, and we're not manually re-entering it several times, so those errors do happen.
It'll catch it, okay.
All right, thank you. I had some comment and conclusions here. It should be noted the budget is presented as proposed. As you all know, in the coming weeks, the commission has an opportunity to suggest changes as it deems appropriate. Ultimately, staff will take that budget adopted by the commission and implement that plan. As always, our department staff and management team put a great deal of effort into it, like I said, from December forward, and much credit goes to them. And fiscal year budget requests are generally found to be reasonable and needed, yet realistically, not all could be included to remain financially sound. I had some recognition, just a little different, it's just my way of leading. There's a special team over there for the finance department, and I tell them all the time, I couldn't do what I do if they didn't do what they did. And so I did take the time to list these people: our accountant Ellen, our customer service supervisor Joanne, who I think's here, our customer service rep Sandra and Amanda, our accounting specialist Beth, and our staffing agency that we're currently using, Stephanie. Without their dedicated efforts of research, analysis, and reporting, there's a lot those ladies do to get me to be able to even have this presentation. It's not me sitting down to put it, and it's very much appreciated. Human Resources, Lisa and Melvina, department heads, and Tamara for all their input and efforts and support. And of course, Mr. Wise, the city guides and leadership throughout every step. The last several months has been incredible. The next steps is review the budget details from this meeting and request additional information. We propose to advertise the operating budgets 15 days of public notice, which is required by law. On May 20th, is the meeting and first adoption of the first reading. That's basically like a motion. We make that first reading to be able to propose to move forward. Then changes can still be made, complete changes from anything you guys want, but it has to be read before we can make those changes or take the next step. Public hearing scheduled for June 17th, which is a week earlier, and a second reading and final approval on June 24th. And those are just some proposals we have there, if I get my mouse back.
I don't think you're right about that. You have to have a reading and vote on it, and that's not right at all.
I think that's our series, is we want to have a reading. I said it's like a motion. I didn't say that was the law. I said it's like a motion to have it, to propose to move it forward. It's a step to move it forward. We can't move forward with a proposal. We can't put out a proposal. We need a physical document to move forward and any changes be made.
But we still could have public comment before all that.
And we did research and talked to several agencies, and we can't find any that actually put out a proposed budget. They put out a first reading or after the second reading, the city included.
Berkeley County, James Island, they do it that way. They don't do what you just said,
But certainly the majority do it the way I'm proposing, but it's note taken.
There was a notice that the Alabama was doing it that way too, that you talked about.
There's one thing that we didn't get to, but I need to take care of it. We had we're gonna do a small update to our rate use ordinance. These copies that you have here are actually going to highlight the changes that we're making. We're not very many, they're mostly just procedural things that we do. And you can look at those, and if you have any questions, you can contact me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you.
The last page of that document will be that appendix A that I showed you, which is the rate changes.
So the ordinance will have to be passed during the budgetary process, so that last page can be put in
Right.
place.
Okay, so we're saying that to do a public hearing, we have to do a, announcement 15 days ahead of the public hearing, is that correct?
Right.
Is that by law or is that by CFD?
That's by law.
State law? Okay. If we, as a commission, next Monday, before we have our general meeting, a regular general meeting, if we were to set a public comment for 6 o'clock with the meeting starting at 7, that wouldn't be an official public hearing, but we could post or give out the information as a public comment time frame. Now, is there any rule that says we can't do that?
I think that's fine.
6 o'clock next week, we can have a hour-long public comment where the public can be in here, tell us what they think of the budget,
Are you talking about the budget and the rate increase? Both, I guess we do.
the whole thing, yeah.
I
Do you have
think
any
that's a,
objection?
I
Does
think that's a
anybody,
great idea.
does
Because I
anybody have
think,
an objection?
The public, I think the public need to know, what is going on before, we make any decision. Because,
It wouldn't be an official hearing, but it could be a comment.
But how would they get the information before the public comment part?
Well,
We need to get the word out.
at the time that, Cameron puts a notice in the paper about, general meeting being at 7 o'clock, our normal.
somebody would have told it's a public hearing, I mean.
No,
this
it's
is
a
what-
public
Officially, we
comment.
need 15 days and we don't have.
Oh.
It's a public comment time about the budget. We can do it at 6:30 if you want.
Because is this about your proposed changes to the meeting schedule? Remember when you sent that, when we
Well,
were talking about that? So, but I'm saying, how are they gonna get, I mean, you see how long it takes us to digest, I mean, what all are they gonna be able to see in order to comment? How are they gonna be educated on what the changes are prior to the?
When are we getting this stuff on our website?
If we were to do it early, I'd say we would certainly, an hour would probably be a bit more, so 6:30.
6:30.
6:30 is better.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, there isn't any real increases, so I don't think there's gonna be an angry mob.
Well, that would be
Yeah, that's
nice.
what I was thinking. That's why I thought 6:30.
But, they might want
Anybody have an
to see
objection to
cut back.
6:30?
And it'd be easier for you also, I know.
No problem.
I have no objection to that. I just wanna know about, get back to the question, how do we get the information
Well-
onto the?
Ms. White,
Newspaper, Facebook.
when we send out the notice about the general meeting, can we, as part of it, put at 6:30 is a public comment about the budget,
And the sewer rate increase.
budget and sewer rate increase?
And then where would we put the information about it?
How would we,
Who
how would we
alters the
get the,
Facebook account?
how
Who
would we
alters
get the
Twitter
proposed
account?
budget out to the public? Put it on the website?
We can, the staff will put a codicil on there saying this is just a draft.
Yeah.
proposal,
Draft.
Oh, definitely.
That it's not been
This
vetted.
is
through
a
the
proposed
commission.
budget.
And then we could link it on social media. Just give $1,000, that's what we over and like that.
Mr. Dean, do you have any adjustments in the proposed budget that need to be done?
Not at this point, no.
Should we set it up for, say, Wednesday at the latest to go on the website?
If that's the direction, sure.
This week, Wednesday.
Well, the general meeting is next Monday.
I just
How
want to make
about
sure
that?
that's Wednesday.
You're talking about a paid advertisement in the postal area.
Yeah. It's
well,
normal public.
You suggested a few details, and how about also indicating in that ad that an outline of the budget will be on the website.
Okay. Ms. White, you got that?
Yes.
Proposed budget will be available on the website, or is available on the website,
Take it.
okay? And we'll have Charleston County deputy here to make sure no weapons come in, right?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to do anything about this tonight?
No, it'll be part of the voting in the first reading and then the second reading. It's incorporated, the last page is already incorporated in the dollars, so it's not a question of that. And his changes, he can go over again if you want, but they're just basically some minor procedural changes, nothing big policy changes.
You talk about the documents at the end, you're talking about the wastewater budget, is 3 or 4 inches, and then this subs that too?
This supersedes this. This is the same thing.
Okay.
You just highlighted where the changes were
He
made.
was giving you a comparison.
Makes it easier to spot the
See what
changes.
stands out, what jumps out at you.
Also on the side, so you can- Does anybody have anything else that needs to be addressed?
I gave you a letter from the, town of James Island. I make a motion that the district accept the offer from the town of James Island, accept responsibility for installation and maintenance of street signs in the town limits, and amend the budget to reduce the amount budgeted for this purpose.
So this is a budget, this is a budget-related issue that should go into the budget. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I don't know how much, I have no idea how much to spend on street signs, and I'm sure it's very minimal. Is that good enough for you? Good for it to camera.
What do you think?
I have no problem with it, I'd like an opportunity to research the dollars and where how they come out, since it's not.
But what difference does it make? We did, as a cost saving.
But it's probably not much, I realize it, but every penny counts.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with the concept,
Yeah.
I just think it'd be nice for us to have a moment to look at it and see what part of the towns are we expending on, what side outside of the town are we expending on. So
Well-
look at a breakdown and analyze it, and then we can determine how the impact that is on the budget.
Well, that's true, but we can still say to the town, go ahead and take it, and then we'll figure out how much money we're saving later.
Okay.
A motion on the floor, and I second it.
I guess we're discussing that, but, we've got the mayor here if you wanna ask him any questions about this.
After did you make a motion, I
I did,
second
and
it,
so
so
we
now it's
discussed
discussion.
Yes.
Howard?
We don't really know how much this is gonna save us, but we could save it.
Cost saving is a cost saving, if it doesn't save us, but 2 pennies is still saving us money.
Well, looking at the table that I put forward, it used to be under wastewater operations, taken out this year and put into administration at a $5,000 for the year fee amount.
It was always a general fund option. I don't know why it ever got put in wastewater, so we followed again policy and put it back in general fund. Wastewater shouldn't have been paying those fees.
Couldn't understand it myself while I was in wastewater.
Yeah, so I moved it back to general fund. It's 5,000. I think they spent 3,300 last year.
As part of the charter for the PSD, is that a requirement in the state?
It is in our charter. provide those services.
What does that do to the charter? if
Well,
we do?
in our charter too, it says we do street lighting and we don't do it.
So we're doing this now, so we don't actually do the actual installation, but we are contacted by residents who then in turn contact SCNG. And then we send out, I think we still send out firefighters on occasion in dark areas to confirm that that is a bit doable and valid reason to have to light there. But then it gets charged back to the public.
Yeah, so we really don't do it.
Well,
The town pays the light bill on most of the town.
you do?
Yeah.
Yes, we make write a check every month to pay the electric bill on all the streetlights. And SCNG, with a franchise agreement with them to do it. Now, I don't know what you all do in the unincorporated area, but the responsibility for providing lights, if you actually did that, out of your tax funds, you would be paying that cost instead of us. And us,
We're not paying anything, we get it back on the neighborhoods.
So
The town. Well,
basically, this thing as far as the street signs could be done the same way.
well, basically, we're letting the town handle it.
Right.
Uh,
So the people would still call here.
No, they call the town. They have a broken street sign, they just call the town. Right? They'll probably still call here and y'all just say, call the town.
Well, it depends on where they are, they might be in the county.
They're, if they're within the town limits.
Well, the town's policy is if somebody calls there and they'll take it down, and if it's in the city or in the county, they will call, they handle it for the, they don't say, go call somebody else. The town handles it and calls whoever they need to call. If it's a city sign, they'll call the people in the city and tell them, your sign is broken. But they always take the message and handle it for the person, regardless whether they're city, town, or county, but they handle it there. They don't pass the buck.
Okay, since this is budget related, is there any other conversation?
Regarding that issue,
Yeah.
well, if the unincorporated parts of James Island aren't covered by by our town, I'd like to request that we make ask Charleston County if they could handle the installation for the unincorporated part, so everybody's covered.
And that would be,
But if we did that, I don't know if they, you know.
that would be the second motion, is to ask the county. Now, the county might say, no, y'all do it, but it would say, the county is a big part of our district, so that's gonna save us some money. We just need to ask the county, would y'all do it, and they'll either say yes or no. Because they're already doing it in the other areas. So, I mean, not, you know, they're doing it on and on.
Motion two is already a PSC responsibility, isn't it?
It's, motion two, is to request the Charleston County accept responsibility for installation and maintenance of street signs in unincorporated areas of the district. And if they agree, reduce the amount budgeted for this purpose to zero. So basically, we're getting out of the sign business altogether. But we don't know whether Charleston County will do that. We know the town will. All we can do is ask. And,
Well,
We can ask. We attempted to do that before, and they said they'd be more than happy to charge us.
Yeah, could we clarify that? If it's in the charter, does it have to be approved? Does this body have the prerogative to?
That's something we've never done before, so I'd have to ask that question.
well, the way I look at
Should that
it,
be determined before we?
the way I look at it, PSC already has a program set up where you can either go online or call in. And if that stays in place, then they can just refer it to whosoever, to the town or to the county. 'Cause you guys, I mean, PSC doesn't make the signs, do it?
No, we order the sign.
We order them, but so
We order,
other
we order.
orders, County makes their
This
own.
is why make a big deal of something that's as simple as a sign? There's a motion on the floor. Can we vote?
I
Yeah,
think it'll save
vote
us
it up
money,
on-
and, you know, who's gonna complain if we don't do what's in our thing? But we can check on this legal issue. But I don't, like I said, we really don't do street signs, street lighting, so, you know. We can make our own rules, remember, if we wanna change it, we can change it. But I think if it saves us 5,000, it saves us 5,000, that's somewhere you can save some money.
And then we're complaining, but we don't have money, and we turn it, this is street
The
sign.
town wants to do
All
it
in
better.
favor?
Oh, wait, Mr. Chair, so we have a vote.
Okay.
Yes.
May I make one more comment? If there's a consensus to approve it, I'm not going to fight it. At an earlier point in my tenure, Commissioner, I would have been very much opposed to it. It's something symbolic about leaving some minor responsibility, giving it up. But I'm not going to fight it, because I see the handwriting on the wall. Eventually, all the functions of KSD will be absorbed by the town. I don't know that it's a bad thing, but at this point in time, I see it coming. It's like that chief, Indian chief, you know, in the 1870s, tried to get to Canada, and said, at this moment, I will fight no more forever, so I'll fight.
Okay, roll call vote.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Well, I would like just to make one more comment too. This way, it's not affecting the individual departments of the PSD. We're trying to find ways to save money without making them cut down to a shoestring budget. And if it is something, every little bit counts, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann? Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Platt?
Abstain.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Any further business?
Oh, yes, I have another motion. Move that the district manager requests that Charleston County accepts responsibility for installation and maintenance of street signs in the unincorporated area of the district, and if agreed, reduce the amount budgeted for this purpose to zero. Same argument. We can only ask, and they can give us a reply. So,
I second.
I thought we just did that.
I second.
Second.
I got it.
And discussion, like you said, you can ask, and then what they come back is what their cost is, if it's even a little bit less than what it would cost for us to carry the whole freight, then that's still gonna save us money.
Any other
Yeah.
conversation?
The ask, so.
Roll call.
I like this. I don't have to say anything, she does it.
Hey, you.
Commissioner Brown
Over there?
Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann? Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
yes,
Motion
and I have
carries.
another motion.
Is this budget related too?
Yeah. That's why it's a budget meeting.
You throw it to me, I'll throw it to Mr. Flash. Don't throw it out at me. Pass it.
Okay. I move the
Thank
district
you.
sell the residential parcel on Dills Bluff Road with the TMS number 42512000185 with the funds used for future capital projects in place of debt finance.
I second the motion.
This piece of property is approximately 5 acres. It's located on Dills Bluff Road, not far from Smoky Oak, but behind, I guess it's a Dollar General. It's zoned residential. I don't see us having the money in the future of doing anything for this. We didn't pay anything for this property. The town of James Island purchased the property, I think it was about for $60,000. When the town was dissolved, the PSB got it. So we're not losing any money.
I gave the PSB that property, okay?
Okay.
Nick,
Yeah,
that
yeah, that's right, it was for the Honey Hill Neighborhood.
neighborhood association.
And, it is zone residential, so we would have a hard time, I think, changing the zoning to put anything there, because it's so many residents around that area who would be very much against it. I think we could probably easily get 500,000 for it, maybe up to 800,000 for it. And right next to it is a smaller piece of property that's commercial. Between the two, we could probably get $800,000 to $900,000 for it. And, neither one of them we paid anything for. So, I think this would help, with our fire station money, basically. That's what we'd be using the money for. So,
If it's already zoned residential and commercial, then wouldn't it have to be a separate thing if it's used by an entity like
yeah,
us?
they could be sold separately or together. It's very easy to go, I guess, residential, take a commercial thing and make it residential. Because that lot we're talking about is very small and it's right next to the, is it Family Dollar or General?
Dollar
Yeah,
General.
Dollar General. They might wanna expand, but who knows? But, at least we can try to sell it. It might take some time and, like I said, it would bring in some money for us. And it's just sitting there, and actually we're paying stormwater user fees on it. We're not paying any taxes on it, and the stormwater fees are not that high. But why keep a piece of land when we need the money? That's the way I feel about it.
There's a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Which one is residential and which one is commercial?
The first one I just read out for the motion, I'm just doing each one separately. So the
Yeah,
first
that's
one
okay.
is the residential. That's the big piece of property, I think it's over 5 acres. And it backs up to, White House Plantation neighborhood.
Well, whenever there was a discussion to move what the PSC trucks there, then the residents got all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
went
when
crazy.
we looked into it before, the neighborhood was not happy about us moving over there. And we would have to go to the town and get the, zoning changed, and that's where people would show up and complain right there. And I also want to point out, this piece of property, the library wanted to build on it, but Mr. Platt was against that. So,
That's not true.
That is
Against
true.
it. I just,
you wanted
I
too
was
much money.
consistent, with what you've been
Yeah.
saying lately. I wanted the PSD to get as much as it possibly could. Some felt like, what I was suggesting was excessive, maybe it was, but again, I wanted the PSD to get.
What the library
Well, I
had.
think we're gonna have to, have the property, at what the market rate will be and not, try to charge them, what it's not really worth. I think we should hire a good, local real estate firm and, see what they can get for it. But anyway, like I said, no point having it if we're not gonna use it, and, we're not losing any money selling it because we didn't pay anything for it.
I tell you the truth, on both of these, I would like to, instead of just coming in from the cold and making the vote on this, I'd like to sit together and maybe have an ad hoc committee for a month and figure out where to go from there before we
I think
decide.
we need to, why do we need to do that? We can decide to sell it, somebody can make an offer, so we could turn them down. We could take the offer. If it's a lot of money, we might say, yeah, we'll take it. If it's not enough money, we can hold off.
Well, there's the impact on the neighborhood if it turns.
That's not our concern. Once we
Well,
sell
it
it.
should be our concern.
It is not
should
our
be.
concern, it's zone residential, we know what the impact will be, they're building houses left and right. And that's, once we sell it, it's in the town's jurisdiction, it's their business to take care of it. It's not our business to decide what goes in there, or what development goes in there. It could be bought for a park, it could be bought for, residential, but that's not our concern. It's not our concern, it's not our job, it's not in our charter, it's not our job.
Maybe it's not our official concern, but I would say it's our ethical concern.
Well, I thought it would have made a great library site, but that, of course, is out of the barn. But we don't need to keep property that we're not gonna use, and we can use this for our fire station. And cut how much we're borrowing, and, probably reduce people's taxes. These people need equipment, they need a new building.
Well, if you get an ad hoc committee before the final reading of the budget to feel out these numbers, to feel out, and ask the people in the neighborhood, ask, it's like, hey, this blank piece of stuff that's sitting here that's probably drawing, you know, we do have.
I know what they don't want us there, and it's up, we just need to sell it. I
Well,
just
it's
don't
not
think
big
we need
enough
to
to-
discuss it. I think we can discuss it right here. But it's not our job to figure out what's going in there. Our job is to decide we don't need it and we need the money. We'll get a proposal, somebody will make us an offer, we can either turn them down at that point or take them. But we're not city planners, we're not town planners.
No, but this is PSD property, and instead of just coming in from the cold and decide to sell it, we could very easily figure out some way that the PSD could use the property. Use-
It's residential, what could we possibly use it for? You think the town's gonna change it? And another thing we need to look at, if they build houses, I don't know how many they can build on this lot. Then it goes back into the tax base, and we will be able to charge them sewer, and we'll be able to collect tax money from them. Right now, we're not collecting any tax money from this. We'll win-win off of this. We'll sell this to a developer. I know we don't like to see development, but it's happening. We might as well make some money off of it. And we will profit because we'll bring in more money. Right now, we're not bringing any money off that land. We're spending money on that land. If we sell it and maybe 6 homes go in there, those 6 homes could be worth $200,000 or $300,000, and we will collect some of that money, that property tax money. Right now, we're not collecting any property tax money. If a commercial building goes in the other one, I don't know what it could be. It could be a doctor's office. I don't know. But we would collect more money off of that. Right now, we're not collecting any money off of it. So we'll get money up front, and then down the road, every year, we'll collect taxes off of these properties.
Any other discussion?
You do recall, if you don't mind, in our CIP presentation, that our rating was done on a study on that building 1, and it was subpar. And so in that presentation was an admin building to go on that site. That building is still subpar, and that's not gonna change, so we sell property, just my opinion, we're gonna have to buy a piece to put somewhere, put a building somewhere.
We could redo that building, we could redo all of these properties. We don't
Just my
have to
input
move.
that was the intent of that
Where are we gonna
property.
come up with money for a new building? We can barely pay for a fire station. People are angry we raise taxes. We're not gonna be raising any more taxes. We're gonna have to either redo that building, and, you know, this money might go into redoing that building. I believe you need better buildings here. But hanging on to property that's zoned residential,
Any other
is
discussion?
not gonna help you.
Call for the vote, please.
The district is restricted to very few investment principles, very few. And land is one of the better ones. Our return on our investment, somebody said it was what, 60,000, it's now 500,000. So it's one of our better investments, and if we needed in an emergency situation, or we needed to do something with those funds that we can't do by raising taxes, then we'll have that available to take care of some kind of catastrophic situation.
Well, how many surplus land figures does the PSD have? Maybe like 4?
Just to-
Well, prices are at a record high. I'm worried the bubble could break and we get less.
The bubble broke by the time we built the fire station, that's a 5.5, didn't it?
Yeah, and so I think this is a good opportunity to sell.
Ms. White, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann, Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-2.
I move that the district sell the parcel on Folly Road, TMS
Wait a
number.
minute. We just voted on your motion was just for the first piece of the property.
Oh, we're going to the
residential.
second one, please.
Okay.
I move that the district sell the commercial property on Dill's Bluff Road, TMS number 42512000298, with the funds used for capital projects in place of debt finance. Again, this property could go separate and go for more money because it is commercial. It's not a very big piece of land, I think just about 1 acre. Again, came from Inez and the Honey Hill Association, isn't that right? They gave it to the town, is that right?
No, the town owned that property before, the town was, the PhD didn't pay a nickel for this meager piece of property.
Mhm.
So, I second your motion.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, I recall a few years ago, our legal counsel strongly recommended that the PSD never possess itself of any real property.
Trent.
Yeah, I wouldn't mention our legal
Yeah,
advisor at
please,
that time.
Trent, it was Trent who, we couldn't have sold that property before, it was Trent who said not to do it.
What was the reasoning?
Uh,
We don't
we didn't
know.
have any.
It makes no sense to me. Like I said, if we sell it, it goes commercial, a doctor's office or a bank goes in there. We stand to make more money right there at the sale, but down the road, every year, we're gonna be collecting property taxes.
Not before the motion's been passed, or one time to vote.
Well, I still say for the same reason that I voted no on the first one. I don't like going into this cold. I want to find out a little bit more from some of the realtors we have in the area, including our real estate attorney before I would vote. If you want to put this up again.
All this can be done after
If
the
you want,
vote.
if you want to put this up again in June, I'd be willing to talk about it because I'll have a chance to talk to some people between now and then. But I don't like doing this cold. Ms. White?
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Sal,
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann? Commissioner Laughlin?
No.
Commissioner Platt?
No.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-2.
Third motion, move that the district sell the parcel on Folly Road, TMS number 334000052, with the funds used for capital projects in place of debt finance. This is,
Wait
you're
a
probably,
minute, wait a minute.
okay, second? Okay.
second.
This is a little piece of property, it's a third of an acre, I believe. It's right around the corner here.
Behind the church.
By that little church, and there's the veterinary office.
You got his property up for sale.
There's actually a big for sale sign right next to this, by Belk Lucy is selling a property. The property next door is owned by the O. Lance, the veterinarian. And, this property, the
Where-
church,
It's over by Oceanside,
Right
Oceanside
over
Vet
there.
on Folly Road.
spitting distance from here.
Signal Hill Road.
What's the name of that little church? It's right next to the emergency.
Olance, the veterinary office.
Yeah.
Olance, it's the Oceanside veterinarian, and there's a little church.
Yeah.
There's a tiny
Church
piece
of
of
God in
land,
Christ.
a third of an acre right there. And the church offered us money for it years ago, but we turned it down.
Yeah.
We've owned it since the '73, I believe, and have done nothing for it. I guess maybe they thought they would do a pump station there at one time. I don't know why we had it. And apparently we got that piece of land for free too. It doesn't seem like we paid for it or anything. All this is on the county GIS, and I
I've known about it for some time. The fact that the property next door is for sale, maybe we should use the same real estate because maybe one business might wanna, take in the whole thing. I will tell you, unfortunately, this piece of property is, the jurisdiction is the city of Charleston, so I don't think we're gonna make much money off of it, but, we'll make money off the sale and probably won't get any, property tax off of it. But, other than that, it's another piece of property we're paying stormwater fees on, not much, but we're still paying that. We're not using it, haven't used it since '73, unless y'all know of any reason why we should keep that little piece of property, third of an acre.
I think you might be able to hold it over the head of the city if they ever eventually want it for something later.
I just, well, I was thinking that whoever buys that property next door, they might want a little more additional parking or whatever. And so, like I said, if we use the same real estate agent and say, hey, look, we get an extra little piece here. And you know it's gonna go something commercial, it's Folly Road, right?
Any other discussion?
I'm just curious of the location again. My understanding is the church, our property, and then the EMS folks.
Maybe it's EMS station there,
Right.
because the Olance own the other people, but the property, that's up for sale, it has a big red and black belt, Lucy Real Estate is up for sale. It's right between that sign and the church is where the property's
So
located.
that's the county.
I think it's City of Charleston, I looked on the thing, it's City of Charleston.
I'll tell you- I'll tell
There's
you
another
right now,
lot
I'm
in
not
between
gonna
the
go guess.
EMS
I
station
don't
and
even
our
know where it
property
is,
that they've been trying to sell.
Yeah, it's right next to that.
Again, I do not like going into something cold like this. I don't know what the property is, where it is, anything about it. So,
Well, I just told you everything I know about it.
any other
It's a-
discussion?
There's no trees on it, there's just grass on it, and there's nothing there.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Platt over here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Tell us what they do.
At last.
Tell us what they do.
Before I vote on this, I might vote aye, and surprise you, I might vote no, I understand that. But before vote, I would request that you make a ruling whether or not it's proper to vote on a motion that's not on the agenda. I know a number of times over the years, when I wanted to make a motion, I was, well, I couldn't because it's not on the agenda. So I would just ask you to make a ruling.
Unfortunately, I have to kind of go with this because it's a budget related when they're talking about the bad financial.
So going forward, so I accept that, but going forward then, then we would put the motion, if it's not on the agenda, if it is germane to anything else on the agenda, that would suffice. We should be consistent, Mr. Chair.
I'm gonna have to think about that and I'll give an answer next Monday.
Yeah, I don't know, I just wondered how is selling all the property gonna affect our ability to get loans? And does this property secure any of the loans that we have
I
now?
don't think
It's just a
so.
question.
I
don't
don't think
know.
so. Do we have any property?
I feel like Mr. White got to evaluate it, take a chance to look at it as the first regard of it, so I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, Ms. White?
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Sell property.
Commissioner Engelmann, Commissioner Laughlin,
No.
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
No.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Motion failed.
Any other business? I hear a motion for adjournment.
I have a motion.
Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I'd like to take any motion for adjournment. Can't do it.
I have a motion from Mr. Platt. Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor? No. Ms. White?
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann, Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
No.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.